We'd like to welcome everybody as you come into the room. We'll be starting in about 5 minutes. And welcome everybody. We're just going to be waiting until our hour mark, and then we'll be starting. So please feel free to share in the chat where you're coming to us from. We'd love to hear from you. Okay, we're going to start, everybody. Welcome to our School Mental Health Summit, Emerging Stronger and More Resilient, Learning from the COVID-19 Crisis. This is a 2-day virtual conference. The 2021 Northeast and Caribbean Mental Health Summit brings together leaders, practitioners, researchers, and other stakeholders in the school mental health field to share the latest research and best practices. The conference emphasizes a shared school family community agenda to bring high quality and evidence-based mental health promotion, prevention, and intervention to students and families as a part of a multi-tiered system of supports. This conference is sponsored by the Northeast and Caribbean Mental Health Technology Transfer Center, or MHTTC, housed at Rutgers School of Health Professions, Department of Psychiatric Rehabilitation and Counseling Professions. My name is PJ Wanger, and I am the Senior Training and Consultation Specialist of the center, and I will be hosting this conference session today along with our presenter. This is session 4, taking off the mask, showing up as your authentic self. It will run from 1:15 to 2:30. Today's sessions are, this is the remaining of today's sessions. You can see the full schedule at the link that will be provided in the chat box for you, and the link that is on the screen. The MHTTC is funded by SAMHSA, the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, to enhance the capacity of the behavioral health and other related workforces to deliver evidence-based and empirically supported practices to individuals with mental illnesses. We have also been awarded additional supplemental funding focused on enhancing student mental health in schools. Please visit the MHTTC Network website for additional information at mhttcnetwork.org. The MHTTC is funded by the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. The MHTTC network includes 10 regional centers, a National American Indian and Alaska Native Center, a National Hispanic and Latino Center, and a network coordinating office. Our center is Region 2, serving New York, New Jersey, Puerto Rico, and the USVI. Supplemental funding was awarded to provide training and technical assistance to teachers and school staff regarding student mental health. The objectives of these activities are to communicate the importance of mental health supports in schools, enhance the capacity to recognize and identify mental health concerns in students, and to educate staff on the best models of school-based mental health services and when to link to community-based services. We have the capacity and expertise to provide national webinars, general trainings, professional development meetings, and intensive technical assistance consultation services on school mental health topics that are listed on this slide. If you are interested in staying up to date with the events and products the Northeast and Caribbean MHTTC is providing, please sign up to receive our email communications. You can sign up at the bit.ly link provided on the screen and will be shared in the chat box. Following the webinar, you will be asked to complete a brief survey. We value this feedback and use it to improve our activities and inform future activities. The surveys will also be important because our funding is linked to the completion of these surveys. So we thank you in advance for this feedback. It is why we are able to provide these trainings free of charge. We also want to let you know that this webinar is being recorded and will be posted to our conference website along with the PowerPoint slides within a week of the conclusion of this conference. The opinions expressed herein are the views of the speakers and do not reflect the official position of the Department of Health and Human Services or SAMHSA. No official support or endorsement of the Department of Health and Human Services or SAMHSA for the opinions described in this presentation is intended or inferred. We encourage you to interact with our presenter during the webinar by using the chat box and the Q&A. We will present your questions at the conclusion of the webinar to the presenter during the Q&A time. During our webinar, our presenter may pose questions to you. Please use the chat feature to answer these questions. The MHTTC network uses affirming, respectful, and recovery-oriented language in all activities. This includes language that is strengths-based and hopeful, language that is inclusive and accepting of diverse cultures, genders, perspectives, and experiences, language that is healing-centered and trauma-responsive, language that invites individuals to participate in their own recovery journey, language that is person-first and free of labels, language that is non-judgmental and avoids assumptions, language that is respectful, clear, and understandable, and consistent with our actions, policies, and procedures. Now let's begin. We are pleased to announce that we have Ashanti Branch with us today. Ashanti was raised by a single mother on welfare in Oakland, went on to study engineering at California Polytechnic, San Luis Obispo. I'll say that wrong, but you can correct me later. A civil engineer in his first career, Ashanti found his passion for teaching while tutoring struggling students. In 2004, as a first-year teacher, Ashanti started the Ever Forward Club to provide a support group for African American and Latino males who are not achieving to the level of their potential. The Ever Forward Club has helped 100% of its members graduate high school. Ashanti is on a mission to change the way that students interact with their education and the way schools interact with students. After being featured in the Mask You Live In documentary and fellowships at the Stanford School, Campaign for Black Male Achievement, and the Gratitude Network, Ashanti has launched the Million Mask Movement to connect people all over the world in a self-reflective experience that helps people visualize and realize I am not alone. Now I am pleased to turn it over to our presenter, Ashanti Branch.
Hello. Good morning. Well, good afternoon for your time. I am really glad to be with you. I wanted to start by first saying thank you for the bio. And sometimes when I hear the bio, I'm looking around because I'm like, who is that? Who is that? Because I imagine, I know, depending on how many times you've heard your bio read, it seems like the highlight reel. And here's what I know about myself is that I'm living in the behind the scenes story all the time. And it doesn't look like always the highlight reel. The highlight reel is those momentary captured moments where you can be like, oh, those are some amazing things that happened. But on a day-to-day, things are chaotic, right? Like nothing in the bio talks about the fact that right now I'm in the office without my executive assistant, who I'm so thankful for and adore. She had a death in the family, and she had to leave town, and so I don't have a replacement for her. So I'm like, oh my gosh, how do I do all this other stuff that she's been really helping me with over the last several years? And so like those things are behind the scenes, right? I mean, behind the scenes is that two of my interns decided they weren't coming in today, and they decided to tell me yesterday. What? Like, I guess I should have written this in the handbook that you must give me a couple of days notice that you're just not going to show up. Like all the things that happen behind the scenes. Sometimes when I hear the highlights, it seems a little awkward. So take a deep breath and maybe just arrive in this place. Just arrive in where you are right now amidst everything that just happened before this meeting, the things that you're already trying to schedule after this meeting, people who are texting you, telling you that you should be there already, like all the things that are happening in our lives that we constantly are running or jumping or hopping or moving from one thing to another. I wonder what would it be like if when people say, how you doing, we could say something like this. You know, I am so well rested. I feel amazing. I like sometimes I wish I could say that. I may say it sometimes for fun, but sometimes it's actually definitely not true. How often am I just so well rested? How often am I just running and running and running and going and going and going and never taking a moment just to just be present? And so today we're gonna have this conversation. My goal in this conversation is not gonna be to fill your head with a lot of facts and a list of things to do, but more to come back to the heart of why you are in this work. Like the deeper part of why you are doing the work you do. Here's what I know is that I didn't plan to be doing this work. This wasn't my plan. I was raised by a single mother on welfare, Oakland, California, a lot of violence, a lot of drugs, a lot of chaos. And I was like, this is not fun. This is not fun. Like, is there an option? They're like, well, look, if you work hard, go to college, make a lot of money, you can live happily ever after. I'm like, wait, say that again? I said, just study hard, go to college, get a good job, make a lot of money, live happily ever after. I'm like, sign me up for that plan. Who wouldn't want that plan? That sounds like a beautiful plan. Like I think I'm smart enough. I'm not a genius, but I'm smart enough to know that if all I got to do is just study hard and go to college and get a good job and make a lot of money, I can live happily ever after. Well, sign me up for the Disney life now. And what you may know is that just getting the job and making a lot of money doesn't fulfill happy ever after. Maybe if you're in the hunt for it right now, you don't know that yet, but maybe you have a feeling that once you get there, it's going to happen. But I'm going to tell you part of my story to let you know that I got to a place of making a lot of money as a college graduate. And I was like, this is not happy ever after. This is just happy hour. Friday at 5 p.m. to Sunday at 7 p.m. I had a happy 24, 48 hours that I maximized. And the other part of the week was just grinding away at work. So we're already jumping in. Let me have you start first. Let me have you start. What I would like you to do in the chat, we're going to use the chat quite a bit. So the first thing I would like you to do is we're going to do what's a check-in. So if you can just in the chat, put a number on a scale from 1 to 10. Let's say if 1 is the worst and 10 is the best, how are you feeling right now? So start there. If you can put a number in the chat based on how you're feeling right now, put a number based on right now. Just take a breath and just check in with yourself physically, emotionally, just drop a number in the chat on how you're feeling right now. As we see the numbers begin to populate the chat, we can see that we're in lots of different places. The numbers are from the lower end to the higher end. And one thing I want to ask you as you're still putting in numbers as you're thinking about what number you want to put, is hopefully this is a space where that number is the real number. Or maybe that number was based on a standard deviation from one side or the other of the number you saw before. So you were like, well, I don't want to go too far on the other side, and I don't want to go too far on the other side. So I'm going to stay in the standard range of that. Is that the real number? Only you don't have to answer that out loud or in the chat, but I just want you to think about that. Because I think that sometimes either we need a place where we can find out where we can be our full selves. Where are the places where you get to be your full self? One of my mentors asked me recently, Ashanti, let me ask you a question. Where are you fully known? You do all this talking all over the place. You know, you speak on stages all over. Like, where are the places where people fully know you? I'm like, nowhere. He was like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, nowhere. There are people who know certain things. There's my team. There's my men's team. There's my family. There's people who know different things in different places. And he said to me, Ashanti, is it possible for you to be fully loved if you're not fully known? I didn't really like that question, but let me say it again. Ashanti, is it possible for you to be fully loved if you're not fully known? And I didn't really have an answer. I still don't have an answer. I have lots of thoughts, but is it possible? And so where are the places that we get to be more fully known so that we recognize that people will still love us the same? And I think that when I talk about working with youth, I've seen lots of young people who didn't believe or did think they would deserve to be fully loved unconditionally. They always felt there was conditions, or they felt that people had to like them or care about them. Those are the things that I saw, that I've seen. So what I'm going to do is we're going to jump in. Thank you for checking in. And what I'm going to ask you to do is we're going to do some work today. So I want you to just give your best from wherever you checked in from. If that's where you are right now, like if you're on the higher end, give your best from there. If you're in the middle to the lower end, give your best from there. And I think that when you leave here, you'll be able to say, you know what, I got something out of that. That's all I'm going to ask you to do today, is just give your best from where you are right now. And what I would like you to do right now is if you could in the chat, just put, what is the role that you play in your company, organization, in your team? It would help me as I'm thinking about the narrative of what I already have an idea where I'm going, but I want to be able to make sure that as I know exactly the type of roles that you are experiencing, that it will hopefully touch on those areas. Because a lot of our work that we're going to talk about, you're going to hear me talking about a lot of young people and primarily a lot of young men in my work, because what our program that we started was for young men. So I'm going to just take you in through the story. Thank you all for putting in those things, and that's going to help me as I'm kind of like weaving this narrative. So PJ is going to help me with some slides, and so what we're going to do is we're going to just thank you, that's me, my welcome, thank you, and then we did a check-in, awesome, and then here's me. So when I was 7 years old, this is a picture when I was 7, my little brother had just been born. My uncle came to the house. He said, Ashanti, you're the man of the house. At 7 years old, I was supposed to know what it meant to be a man. This is my mom. My mom, I think I love my mom. I'm so thankful to still have her in my life, but I didn't like her a lot growing up. I had a lot of responsibilities as a 7-year-old boy raising kids, like diapers, formula, burping, baths, homework, clean up toys. Like I was a very domesticated 7-year-old. I could take care of a house, 3-course, 4-course meal, what you need, I got you. But I was in this body of a boy, fully a boy, but no man around helping me figure out what to do with this body. How do I navigate this world of being who I was born to be and not having anybody really show me? My mom didn't know what it meant to be a man. My mom didn't know what to tell me when that guy down the street took my bike. She yelled at me. She was like, you better go back and get that bike. I'm like, with what skills? What have you taught me in my life that gives me any indication that the guy who took the bike is going to give it back now? And the fact that you taught me to be really smart and wise and intelligent. And when somebody says they're going to punch you in the face, it doesn't sound like a good idea. So the bike was gone. You mean bike my face? Come on now. What option is there? But my mom didn't know any better. No one ever came up to her and took her bike from her. So she didn't even know how to prepare me for that even conversation. She just got mad because she could think of the money that she invested in this bike. And all I could think about was protecting health and well-being, which is what I thought was really intelligent. So the journey of me growing up in a house where my mom was doing the best she could to teach me how to be a good boy in her house. And when I walked out of my mom's house to the street, I had to live a different world. I had to live in almost two different worlds. Because when you walk down the street in my community, you can't smile too much because everybody thinks you're looking at them the wrong way. You better be tough. You better be strong. You better not show any feelings. You better pretend like you don't have any emotions, because in my community, men don't have emotions. So what do you do with this very empathic boy who is loving and caring and wants to help everybody up when they fall on the football field, and people are saying, stop helping people up. What's wrong with you? I'm like, he fell. Shouldn't you help him up? And I realized that, that's not welcome here. In my house, when somebody gets hurt, you run to the action to help. But outside of my house, you can't do that because it makes you soft or weak. Or why are you always helping people? That was a negative thing in my community. I'm just going to give you a little heads up because we're going to jump in some real stuff right now, but I'm just letting you know that my journey of today is a journey of just growing up in a lot of chaos. I'm reading a book right now. It's on the table here. It's called It Didn't Start With You. And what I've learned about my own self with this book, It Didn't Start With You, was that a lot of the trauma and things I dealt with growing up happened before I was born. My father died 3 months before I was born. 3 months. What I learned in this story about, I was swimming in sadness. My mom's grief, me in her belly, just dealing in whatever the genetic codes that got passed through sadness and grief and worry. And now, how do I raise this boy by myself? How do I deal with the sadness of losing his father? What do I do? 3 months. And so I show up to this planet, a very emotional being in a boy's body, in a community that says boys can't be sad, can't be emotional. You should not have any emotions. And that is how the journey of my work began, I think. I didn't know it was beginning, but as I look back to the story, every time I was told, stop crying like a little girl, Ashanti, stop being a little sissy, Ashanti, man up, Ashanti, there were always tools and indications that I wasn't man enough, because, I mean, at 7 years old, I was supposed to already be a man, remember? This is my grandmother. She's my father's mother. She really, I love her. She actually didn't let me meet the other branch people in my family. Actually, she held the key to me meeting all the branches in my life. She actually only opened that key in 2012. And I finally said, grandmother, you got to help me meet. Why do I know anything about my family? She was kind of the grandmother who's like, go outside and play. Stop asking all these questions. Go outside and play. That's what she used to say. And she said that when I was 7 years old. And she said that when I was 27 and 37. Go outside and play. I'm like, I'm here to visit you. What you talking about? Like, that's my grandmother. And so finally, she let me meet all the branches in my family. But whatever happened to her that had her disconnect us from the rest of the family is always an interesting story for me. The next thing I want you to know is that when I went to college to be an engineer. I wanted to be rich. I grew up poor. I was like, well, look, they told me that this happy ever after is after I get a good job and make a lot of money. So let me go to the top engineering schools. I went to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, and these are my best friends from college, all engineering majors, different engineering majors. But that was a place where I began this journey of like, I'm going to make money. Cal Poly was hard. It's a hard engineering school, but luckily had friends that helped you get through it. I also wanted to let you know that what this work has took me to, not only taking me to teaching, but taking me to other places. This is me doing a Fulbright fellowship in India. So remember, I want to be a rich engineer, and somehow now I'm teaching in Southeast Asia. Like, what's happening? How did this vision of forward progress and a financial positive curve up and into the right? How am I now doing a job that's going to pay me very little, going to get disrespect, and I'm going to get blamed for the fact that education is a mess? But being able to be there in India with those students, learned a lot. This is a picture of those students. Now, that was 2007. This is now 2020. They are now, 26, 27. I met them when they were teenagers, and now they're adults and all over the world and doing amazing careers and going to grad school. And it was a journey of me helping to learn, what does it take for us to help young people build into who they really could be? So this work that you're going to see right now in a little bit, it has taken me lots of places around the world. But remember, I was planning just to be rich. This was not me planning to be like traveling around the world, telling people and talking about masks and talking about emotions and talking about feelings. But I think that sometimes when you find the thing that you're supposed to be doing, it calls you. This is our work in Romania. That's Dracula's castle right there behind me. We also got to go to Africa, to Nigeria, to present at a global leader summit there. I did a work at a junior college, which is called high school there. Who also went to Mexico. I spent a lot of time in Mexico. That's my godson in the picture with me. This sign in Spanish says, "Eres feliz o solo sonríes?" That's in a little village in Oaxaca. "Eres feliz o solo sonríes?" That means, are you happy or are you only smiling? And I used to see that picture like for maybe 4 years on the one wall. This little town doesn't allow graffiti, but that sign stayed there for about 4 years. Every time I went back, I took another picture of it because it was just like amazing. The last time I went there, the sign was gone, but you can almost see the sign still. It was almost one of the moments where it's asking people still that question: Are you really happy or are you just smiling? Our work took us to Australia, down under. What a beautiful experience with young people in schools there. And so what we're going to be doing as we talk about this, and the last place that our work was taken, which was last year, was to Iceland. I didn't get to go there. That was during COVID, but they translated my work into Icelandic. It was really interesting to see words. I don't even know what Icelandic, how it even sounds really. But it was beautiful to see teachers and educators thinking about these masks. And we're going to talk about these masks. I think as we think about, we're not talking about personal protection masks. We're not, here, I'm gonna show you one of mine here. This is one of my favorite masks. And I have other masks as you've seen in some of the pictures, but we're talking about emotional disconnection masks. Like masks that you can't even see. What I tell people in our work, we've been doing this work since 2015. So way before masks became some kind of a political word, we've been talking about masks around emotional masks. I think that these masks that we are now been asked to wear is just a physical representation of the mask we were already wearing. How many times do you smile when you're not really happy? How many times are you just going along with the flow just to not create a ruffle in the waters? How many times do we actually get to speak what we really feel? Sometimes it's hard. And so this work started because I was a bad teacher, and we're going to jump into the work. I'm going to try and just give you a little background to how this work all started. And what I did is as a teacher, I was doing a horrible job. And so I said, look, I'm going to try something new. I left corporate America to be a teacher. I said, look, I'm going to try some of my corporate America stuff. So I had a coach when I was a teacher, when I was an engineer. When I became a teacher, you have a master teacher, but it's not the same as when you get a executive coach. It was very different. So I said, I'm gonna bring some of my coaching stuff into my classroom. I told my students, I'm not gonna be your teacher no more. I was fed up. I was fed up with people not doing homework. I was fed up with giving out bad grades. I was like, this is not gonna happen. So I said, from now on, I'm not gonna be your teacher. I'm gonna be your success coach. And they were like, what? Ms. Branch, you just give us the classwork and stop playing around? I'm like, look, I'm done. Now, there are kids who are always gonna do the work. There are kids who are gonna make up their own work. There are kids who, if you don't assign homework, like let's say a day I take off, I come back to school, I got a kid number one who's like, hey, Mr. Branch, here's my homework. I'm like, no, there was no homework. I was absent yesterday. Oh no, I made up my own homework. I'm like, well, then you should grade it yourself because I didn't assign it for a reason. Why are you trying to give me extra work? I took a day off for a reason. You should be like enjoying your day off. But since you want to do extra, how about you grade it? Here's the teacher book. Go ahead, grade it yourself. I'm talking about those kids. And in the same class, I can drive to the kid's house, sit at their kitchen table, hand them a manila folder with the homework, and that kid's not doing the homework. So as an educator, I'm educating a room full of all different types of learners and people who have different love for learning. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna try something new. I'm gonna be everybody's coach. The kids who already got it, they're gonna get even better. The kids who need a little bit more support, a little more coaching, I'm gonna coach them. That's how we're gonna try and work this around. So I had them answer these questions. And so I made this little worksheet. This is back in 2004. This is before fancy stuff. This is before Facebook, before Instagram, before all of that. This is way back, 2004. If you can remember back then. Okay, so here's what I did. I asked them to answer these questions. I made this little box for them. I made these little boxes. And then what I'm gonna have you do is I'm gonna have you try it first. So what you're gonna do is I'm gonna ask you to think about when you were a teenager or even just right now, what are some obstacles that you have overcome? You can just put yourself into them from the right where you are right now, or with the population you work with the most at that age. What are some obstacles that you had overcome or that you currently have overcome? And then I want you to think about what are some obstacles that you currently face. Just think about that for a second. Obstacles that you overcome either right now or just back then. I'm just gonna, this is what you're gonna see is you're gonna see some youth, right? You're gonna see some youth answering these questions. So think about some obstacles that you had overcome and then some obstacles you were currently facing, okay? And I'm gonna show you what some of the students said, okay? So PJ, will you skip forward to that first slide that has, so this is what the sheet looked like. You know, this is back before fancy sheets could be created. And then you did this part already. So here are the couple I want to read to you. Obstacles that I overcome in my life is drugs and my girlfriend. Obstacles that I currently face are some teachers being boring, like my English class. I started identifying with this kid. I didn't like English either in school. The next one, obstacles that I overcome in my life, I almost overcome gangs and stuff like that. Maybe you can see he kind of slipped in almost right there, yeah. Obstacles that I currently face are their gangs. I didn't know that this kid had to walk 2 miles the opposite direction from school to come back to school because he had to walk around a gang environment because they were always trying to recruit him. What do you do when you live in the middle of chaos and you don't have any options? You can't just move. I didn't know that kid dealt with that. I know what it felt like to grow up in a place where you felt scared taking the trash out. I didn't know this kid came to school every day with that kind of baggage. I was wondering why he was late a lot. It wasn't until then when I found out. The next slide. The obstacles that I overcome in my life is the fact that my dad is not with me no more, and I had to accept it now. Obstacles that I currently face are how bad I want to do good in school, but I always end up slacking off. Listen, this young man, he witnessed his father dying when he was in middle school. I was a high school freshman math teacher, okay? So to give you context, he's a freshman. I didn't know that about him. He came to class every day on time, like pristine, doing nothing. Like every day on time, comes in, sits down, does nothing the whole period. He doesn't even know what PTSD is, what trauma is. He replays that image over and over and over. His mom is telling him that he's slacking off because he's getting bad grades. No one's even asked this kid, hey, do you want to talk about this? He can't forget it. He thinks he's slacking off, but no one's even told him that he is going through something in his life that he can't even name, but he knows he wants to do good in school. I didn't know this about this kid. And the fact that I grew up without my father, he and I had a different connection after this day. And the last one here, I just want to say it was really hard to read first because it's so small. So I always tell students, hey, stop writing so small. Like, why are you making me squint my eyes to read your writing? But something in my mind said, just take the paper, don't complain. And when I got home, this is what I read. Obstacle that I overcome was just make it to the age I am. He's 13 years old. He's like, I'm just glad to be alive right now. What? How do I think that you should care more about the Pythagorean theorem, quadratic formula, or any type of math term that may be making you sweat right now, like than what you're going through? Because you're just saying, look, I'm just glad to be alive. So like there's all this other stuff is extra bonus. I didn't know what this young man had been through. And this, everything they said to me was not about what they needed help with math. It was obstacles that they overcome, they were going through right now. And what I realized was that I was doing a good job trying to teach math. And I was not trying to teach humans. I was not trying to build relationships. I was not trying to build connection. I didn't even know how to do that, first of all. Well, I knew how to do that because I've been building relationships all my life. But I didn't know that as a teacher, part of my role was also to build relationships. All right. So I think I'm hopefully giving you an understanding of like how what we're going to talk about right now when we talk about these masks was not me just trying to be clever and create something. It was a journey of me asking a lot of questions and figuring out that I'm missing so much because of what I'm doing. I'm judging what I see on the outside. And what these young people showed me, and there's dozens of these, that they're going through so much more that you wouldn't even know by looking at them on the outside. Maybe you yourself. Maybe you're going through so many more things than anybody would ever know by looking at you on the outside. Take a breath. Okay. All right. We got to jump in. We got to keep going. We got a lot to do. I think I've given you enough story. I think I've given you enough story because I could tell you stories forever, but I'm gonna move fast past this part. So this is a letter I wrote to a student. You can skip past this. You can go to the next letter. I try to write letters back to them. Like, I thought that it was a good idea. I saw it on a movie that teachers would write letters to students every day. And I was like, I don't like to write that much. First of all, 150 letters a week. Are you crazy? Who's going to do that? I'm not doing that. I realized that my role was not to try and do what I saw somebody do in a movie, but to do what was more authentic to me. So move forward, and I'm going to have you try something. This part I think is really important in terms of this next piece we're going to move into. This activity it may be easy for you or it may be hard for you, but wherever it is, I just want you to do your best. So right now, I just want you to take a breath. And so normally I have a Zoom so I can see you all, but I can't see you. So whatever you do in this moment, I can't tell, but I'm gonna ask you to try this. I want you out loud, wherever you are, or as loud as you can say it, is to say, I am 3 times. I am. And then I want you to pick one of these words to go after each I am. So you can pick the same word 3 times. You can pick 3 different words. I am amazing. I am amazing. I am amazing. Like, I want you just to say it. And just notice what you feel as you're saying it or as you're resisting saying it. Just notice wherever it's coming up for you right now. Just take a breath and notice it. And just go ahead and do it. I am creative. I am courageous. I am superb. I am special. And the reason I asked you to notice what you feel about this is because when my mentor asked me a couple of months back to do this activity, I was like, I ain't got time for this. And we have a very open relationship. So I'm like, what are you doing? You're supposed to be helping me survive through this pandemic so I can keep money going for this nonprofit, so I can keep a job for my team. Why are we doing positive affirmation mumbo jumbo? Is exactly what I said to him. Mumbo jumbo. I don't even know where that word came from. He was like, Ashanti, just do it. Just do it. It's a simple task. I'm like, what? I hope you didn't bring me here to us to talk about this. Like, I need to raise money, is what I'm telling him. He says, Ashanti, why are you making this simple task so complicated? And here's where the conversation went. He said, Ashanti, do you believe it? And because he knows me really well, he knows that when I talk about myself, I'm feeling this one right here. I never use these words. These are never the words that I use to describe myself. So what he was trying to do was give me a break from being so hard on myself, because I got big dreams and big goals and I want to do amazing things for people around the world without giving myself credit. Now, the reason this is so important is because here's what I know about young people in our work. Some of them never hear these messages from people who actually love them. Some of the people, they never hear messages like this from people who actually care about them. I thought my mom loved me growing up. I believe she did. My mom never was like, Ashanti, you're so amazing. Oh, Ashanti, you're so special. Ashanti, you're so creative. Like, maybe on birthday, maybe if I'm, made a nice dinner and she'd be like, oh, this is so delicious. But it was about the doing. It was not who I was being. And what I know about what I experienced as an adult is that some young people in my work, because I love giving these words to students, I love showering them with positive affirmations, and sometimes they don't believe it. And it was a reminder that sometimes they don't believe it because they don't hear it enough. No one's ever told them. So when you say it, they're like, whatever. You have to say that. You get paid to say that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm amazing. Thank you. You want your check now or something? Like, what is it about what happens? Because if you don't hear it enough, you may not even believe that it's real. So I want you to just take in however, maybe if you felt really awesome doing what I just asked you to do around that, maybe you have had a lot of practice. I'm speaking to both sides, that if you have felt amazing about it, I'm so happy. And if you didn't, I understand, because I know that everyone doesn't feel like they can say these words to themselves. This is the work we're talking about. We're talking about mental health in a way that in our work, we're not therapists in our work in Ever Forward. We are practitioners and building awareness around what is going on behind what I can see on the outside so that it doesn't come out in some unhealthy ways, because we know that if you don't deal with it in a healthy way, it's going to come out in unhealthy ways. Okay, let's move past this. We're going to move on past these three. We're going to keep going. These are some other things we're going to try, but I'm going to get you into the work. So Ever Forward Club was a program that I started because I was a teacher doing a horrible job. I didn't know what I was doing. All I knew is that there were smart kids in my class failing, and ultimately I wasn't willing to let that happen. So go to the photo with the kids on the couch, and we're going to I want you to look at these young men on the couch. This is our first meeting. Our first meeting happened. I was telling young men, look, I'll buy you lunch once a week. In exchange for lunch, teach me how to be a better teacher. Like, what am I doing wrong? This was how it all started. I knew that these were smart young men, but most of them were academically doing horrible. Like, you're amazing. Why are you failing my class? Like, I'm not here for this check. I'm here for you. I'm here to help you find the life of your dreams. And what we did in Ever Forward, we began to have a space for young men to come and talk about what was going on in their life behind what we could see on the outside. And that began the Ever Forward Club. That began the brotherhood. And what we've seen over the years, I'm going to just show you with two young men's story really quick, or maybe I'll show you three, but two young men. This young man, we made him into an avatar. So he's one of my young men. He's now 21. This text you're going to see on the next screen was last year. One from the year before, so one when he was 19 and one when he was 20. So the first one says, why do I run? And why do you keep trying to help me? It's so confusing and it hurts me to run from you, but I feel like you shouldn't be doing this for me. Why are you there for me when my own blood won't move a finger? It's confusing. I don't have anything but love for you, Branch. Thank you. This young man is confused at why I care about him because his own family doesn't show they care about him. I don't even know how to answer that question. I just told him, look, I don't know how we met each other in life, but you're pushing me away, and you have the right to push me away, but I'm only here for you. I'm not getting anything out of this. I'm not paid to do this. I'm just here to support when you want it. This last one is on Christmas. He went on another disappearing act. I'm like, hey, where you been? I've been looking for you. How you doing? I told him, Merry Christmas. I don't get to see you, but I respect your choices. I've been here for you, regardless of what story you tell yourself. I'm still here for you. He wrote back, just want to wish you a happy New Year's. Hope everything goes well for you and you reach all your goals. Just know I have nothing against you. I'm in a crazy place in my life. I don't want you to hurt over me. I'm a horrible person. You don't need me in your life. I need you, but I'm choosing to keep my distance because the only one who will be hurt at the end from this friendship is you. I love you, Branch. Please stay safe. This young man has told himself that something about him is so bad that he's going to hurt me. He's going to hurt the friendship, but I'm the one pushing out, trying to keep him connected. It's a story he's telling himself. It's not a story I told him. How oftentimes we're trying to help people and support young people, even adults who are telling us, no, you don't want to help me. You don't care about me. You shouldn't be helping me. My family don't help me. What do you want from this? What's your ulterior motive, they may say, if they don't use those words. And what I know from my work is that my job is just to keep staying present. I don't have an answer on why I care about you. I do. And my work is mentoring, right? It's mentoring. So, I call them and text them and check in with them. But ultimately, I don't get to choose whether they want to be mentored. I can just be there. The next young man I want to tell you about is a young man who is standing right next to me in this picture. This is a picture at Yosemite National Park. The young man standing right next to me is Clive. He is a great young man. Leaving 8th grade, he's been in our program since he was in the 6th grade. Leaving 8th grade, going to high school, he lost his mom. The next slide you can show. We were walking through the national forest, and you can see there's all these trees burned up, like the Yosemite was on fire. But there's some green growing in the bottom. And the next photo you'll see there's actually flowers actually growing in these areas where the trees are burnt down. And this young man said, look at the beauty in dead things. I think the only way he could really have a reflection like that is to know what the pain of death is, to lose his mom. And me being a mama's boy, even still to this day, he was a mama's boy, didn't have a father in his life. He went into a really dark place, and I just kept reaching out. His grandmother said he was not eating, he don't want to talk. Every time I would call him, he'd be like, I'm fine, good. One word answers. I kept staying present. And one day he called me. I don't know what I was doing, but he said, what are you doing, Branch? I'm like, nothing. He's like, can we get together? I'm like, absolutely. And he finally started coming out of that place. What if after 3 months of calling him, figuring out he don't want to talk, I just said, I'm done with you. I'm out. Whatever. I knew that I couldn't be doing on my timeline. It had to be his timeline. And now that he just finished his freshman, he just finished high school, finished his freshman year of college. He actually just recently lost his grandmother. And he called me and said, Branch, why does this keep happening to me? What a big question that I have no answer for. Branch, why does this keep happening to me? Why do I keep losing the people who I love the most? What do you do at 18-year-old when you've inherited 2 cars and a house? And what do you do when you've lost the people you love the most and you're now trying to figure out how to be an adult yeah, I knew it was hard for him. The next young man that I want to share with you is this quote right here. We ignore our feelings or suppress them, they only become stronger. If we don't express our emotions, they pile up like a debt that will eventually come due. That's from Mark Brackett at the Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence. How often do we as adults, let's just talk about us, how often do we pile up our emotions and then we lash out at probably people who love us the most? When that moment of vulnerability comes and we like, oh, why did I say that? I didn't mean to say that. I'm dealing with, I wasn't about you, it was about them. And what happens? Well, because we sometimes ignore them for so long, or we stuff them for so long. Sometimes it goes into our body. Sometimes it goes into addiction. Sometimes it goes into other ways of being that doesn't always serve us. Okay, take a deep breath. I think we're going to do the work now. I think we're ready to do the work. Okay. So I just share with you some stories of some young people, some stories of this journey of journalists. And what I want you to do is I want you to experience the work that we've been doing in the mask. I've been hinting around the mask, but I'm going to show it to you. Okay. So there's going to be a link in the chat. Okay. There's going to be a link in the chat. If you haven't seen the documentary, The Mask You Live In, you can slip past the next 2 slides. The next 2 slides, this is the documentary, The Mask You Live In. It's about American masculinity and how America's hyper masculine narrative of being a man. Yeah, you can cancel that. We're not going to play it. We're going to just go back to the slides. Yeah, sorry about that. It just automatically takes you there. So the documentary you can see on some of the streaming sites, but it was done by the Representation Project. So that's The Mask You Live In. And we'll keep going. What we're going to do is I'm going to give you a link to do an activity. But the last story I want to share with you is what happened after this journey of being a teacher. So I was a teacher for 10 years and I was an administrator for 3. My second year as an administrator, I had a young man come into my office. It was a day the documentary was coming out in Oakland. We were going to do a screening in Oakland, and him and his mom were coming. So he was a student at the school. And so I want you to go ahead and go to the next 2 slides. Yeah. Pat. It keeps wanting to make you play the video. Somebody wants you to see this trailer, but we're gonna, I don't want to run out of time. I want to make sure you have time for the activity. And so I'll just tell you the story. So the young man, he comes into my office. I'm actually planning to leave that day. I wasn't planning to work because we had this big screening. So I had the day off, but I came in because they needed me. And as I'm packing up to leave, the lady in the front office called and said, "Hey, you have a student here for you." I'm like, "Okay, well, send him back. I'm about to leave, but send him back." He comes back and he says, "Okay, I see you're packing up. Let me just hand you this letter and I'll go back to class." PJ, will you go to the letter? Will you go to the letter? I'm sorry, I apologize about the confusion. So don't go to the link yet, or I'm kind of in 2 different places. So we're gonna do that next. So if you already hit the link, just stand by, and I'm gonna tell you this last story first before. So on the he hands me this letter. Actually, we don't need the letter. It is in there, but I'll tell you what happened. He handed me a letter, and the letter said, "Dear Mom, Mr. Branch, and family, I'm planning to kill myself." He wrote the date today, tomorrow, the next day. So I've been studying what I'm going to do to commit suicide. And I remember like getting to that part and just like in my heart exploding with empathy and care and love, and just like looking at him, and he was looking at the floor. And I'm, as an administrator, you go through trainings about this. There's a checklist of what you're supposed to do. But, I mean, I don't have it in memory. I don't have it memorized. I'm like, where's the checklist? Where's the checklist? I'm trying to, in my mind, while I'm watching this boy looking at the floor, I'm like, here, come here. And I have him come to me. I have him sit down. I said, listen, I just get right next to him. I said, listen, today's going to be a tough day. Okay. But I got your back. I wasn't even planning to work that day in a profession I was never planning to be in. As an administrator, I was trying to do my best to really help him. But what I realized right then was that all I could do was just be present for him. And then I had to go figure out where the checklist was and who am I supposed to call first and where do I start? And I went to the on-site psychologist. She was already with the student and she was like, okay, we got to ask him these questions. I'm like, okay, what I got to do? I went back and I was going through a learning on the job training as it was, because what I knew was that boy, and I'm like, what do I can't leave him in the office by himself. I got to take him with me. So I took him with me everywhere I was going, trying not to talk about him while he was present. That was a day that changed my life. And that boy that I'll tell you about, I'll tell you about the rest of his story toward the end. I want you to know that he was never in trouble. He was never a kid who was in trouble. He came to my room that day, handed me this note as a way of showing me that he was looking for some support. Where do we go when we need support? Who do we go to that will help make it better? It may feel like it's going to get worse first, but how do we help go to somebody who's going to hold us and hold space for us? And not just send us to some room where they just want to observe us. How about they really care? And that day changed my life in terms of how do I recognize, this is before we were doing the workshops around the world. It was when I realized that there was so much happening behind the mask. Okay. So here's what I'm going to ask you to do. The task I'm going to ask you to do is to give your best. The link that you see in the chat, PJ, it's okay. We can just come back to a full room. It's okay. I don't even need the slides. It's all beautiful. Thank you so much for your help with that.
Sorry about that, Ashanti.
No worries. It's okay. In the link that's in the chat, when you click that link, it's going to ask you to do a task. And I want you just to give your best on this task. There are 3 steps. There is to draw a picture and write 6 words. Now, it's a simple task, but it may not be an easy task. Now, it's a simple task, but it may not be an easy task. So when you go in there, when you go to that link, it will give you the instructions and there's a little drawing pad right there. I want you just to go ahead and start working on your mask. I'm gonna give you about 4 minutes to draw the mask. I'll play a song while you're working on it. But the 2 questions, you're gonna draw a picture of a mask, whatever you think a mask looks like. And don't worry, like there's no grade and it's anonymous, so do your best. Whatever you draw is perfect. And then the first 3 words you're gonna write are gonna be on the front of the mask. And the questions are right below on the bottom. And when you type the words in those boxes on the bottom, it will move those words to the top. So you'll type it in and the word will pop up to the top. So don't worry, you don't have to write it with the pen. And the words on the front are, what are the qualities of yourself that you gladly let the world see? That's the front of the mask. Then when you go to the back of the mask, what are the qualities that you normally don't let people see? Got the front of the mask and you got the back of the mask. Okay. So what I want you to do first is just to go ahead and do that activity. When you get to that, after you finish answering those questions, it's going to be a submit button in the top right corner. You just click submit and it'll ask you for your age, city, and gender. The goal for this is because we have masks from all over the world, we don't need to know your city if we're not trying to figure out who you are. You can just put the MHTTC just so we know that, okay, these came from this place, right? You can put Rutgers as just a way of, this is who's hosting this meeting. It's not a goal of figuring out who you are because they're anonymous, but it is a way of helping me recognize where masks come from all over the world and how many people are sharing so many qualities that we don't even know about. Okay. So please go ahead and work on that. I'm gonna play a song and in about 3 minutes, I'll stop you or slow you down. And then I'm gonna show you a video of some masks from around the world. Okay. So go ahead and start. I'll play this song for you just to let you work. And I'll be back with you in a couple of minutes. Thank you.
As my friend, there is something that I might need you to do. Just because you say we need equality too. Will you speak out, step up and defend my truth? If you do, I'll go with you. 'Cause as my friend, you will know the truth and love just who I am. You will use your voice and make them understand. You don't always see when they're lashing out at me. I need to know that you will still believe me, standing up for me when they say those hateful things. beside you, holding you up when you falling apart and you can't get up, you know you will be alright, cause you know that I got you. You are not alone. You are not alone. You know that I got you. We'll be alright, cause you know that I got you. You are not alone. As your friend, there are ways that I have changed. I won't go back to where I was before I met you on this track. I will step up, speak out, meet you where you're at. You know that I got your back. So as your friend, I will go with you no matter where or how far. Cause I know your truth, I love who you are. I'll be around even when you don't see me. I'm not afraid to get teased, even if it means standing up for you when they say those hateful things. They're not true, they're not true. Hearts beat louder, voices rising. I'll be there for you, always riding side by side, listening out. I need you, standing beside you, holding you up when you falling apart and you can't get up, you know you will be alright, cause you know that I got you. You are not alone. You are not alone.
Yeah, we out here revealing what you could be, what you would be if you were free. Okay, so hopefully you're finished up. If you can just in the chat right done when you're finished, I'm gonna go ahead and start moving forward. And if you still need a couple of minutes, I'll give you about 30 more seconds. But I want to move so you can see the video, and then we'll make time. We have time for Q&A at the end, but I want to make sure I have one more thing I want to show you before we stop. So if you can just go ahead and write done in the chat. That will help me know that you're done. And I think some people may still be working, but I want to show you this video so that you can just see mass from around the world. And really, we're going to do a reflection also. So after the video is over, I'm going to ask you to reflect. Right now, we don't need the slides right now, PJ. We're going to just have oh wait, no, I'm gonna share the video. I'm gonna share the video. So you're okay. You're okay, PJ. I'm gonna share the video here on my side. Some people are maybe still working. Oh, thank you for this quote. Yeah, love takes off masks that we fear we cannot live without, and know we cannot live within. Thank you so much. So as you're finishing up these, the next video I'm gonna show you, and you're gonna hear a song playing with the video. This is a video that was done by a group of students in Los Angeles. They went through the same activity you just went through, and then they made a song about it. And the masks you're going to see are masks collected from all over the world. So you're going to see different places around the world of masks that we've collected. And then when we come back, we're going to ask you to reflect in the chat, like what's coming up for you? What has already come up for you? What are you feeling right now? What did you notice as you see these masks that are coming on the screen? And so I'm going to go ahead and I'm get ready to show that. And if you can, let me see. Go ahead and finish up your mask. If you're still working on submitting, when you click that submit, the second time is when it's fully submitted. And then if you can come to the chat and write done, I'll give you about 30 more seconds, and then I'll go ahead and show the video. Okay. And if you're stuck on the back, here's what I know. Here's what I know I've seen around the world. Maybe you're like, I only got 2. Then just leave it at 2. Just trust you that you're giving your best, and your best is good enough. And let yourself just know that, yeah, this is when I tell people it's simple, it's just 1 picture plus 6 words, right? But it's not really easy sometimes. And so just taking a moment and doing your best I'm going to go ahead and share right now the video. So thank you all for writing done in the chat, and and if you're still finishing up, you'll still be able to finish once the video is over. But I want to make sure that we have time so I can end on time and get you out on time. And maybe you're in a moment. I'm just trying to because I can't see your faces, I don't know what is happening. So I'm trying to just project what I've seen in different places. Take a deep breath and just, if you're at a place, or maybe you decided you weren't doing it. Maybe you were like, I ain't doing that. Just write done anyway. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. I can't even see you. So just if you weren't going to do it anyway, you could just write done. Then I'll at least I'm just trying to make sure I'm not going to cover your screen up while you're still working. For the most part, what I know is that it's not always an easy task for some people. So I trust that, and I know that. I don't take that for granted. Okay. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and show the video. Okay. And I'm going to, it's like a really short video, but then we'll come back and then we'll begin some reflections around that. And if I have time, I'm going to show you a video of a young man who went through this experience and how he reflected on that experience. So here we go. Here's the video. Let me make sure I'm sharing my sound with you. Okay, here we go.
Summer you'll never have until you ask. You don't know just who I am under this mask. 100,000 masks, I'm just trying to be a man. 100,000 masks, you don't know just who I am. May think you know me, you can't envision my past. You don't know just who I am under this mask. 100,000 masks, I'm just trying to be a man. 100,000 masks, you don't know just who I am. Walk 1,000 miles and I ain't never looking back. Before I take this mask off, gotta know myself in fact. I can never go too fast, I can never get off track. Leave it in the past, I can never come in last. 100,000 masks, sure and feel who I am. I'm just feeling good, yeah, I'm feeling like the man. Running back a mask, trying to ask of who I am. Know just who I am when you look inside this mask. Summer you'll never have until you ask. You don't know just who I am under this mask. 100,000 masks, I'm just trying to be a man. 100,000 masks, you don't know just who I am. May think you know me, you can't envision my past. You don't know just who I am under this mask. 100,000 masks, I'm just trying to be a man. 100,000 masks, you don't know just who I am.
Oops, sorry, Ashanti. I think you're muted.
Well, I think I was just taking deep breaths. So beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for that. Take a deep breath. And maybe in the chat, just write, what are you feeling right now? What did you notice? What did you notice as you made your own mask? What did you notice as you looked at the mask that others around the world have made? What did you notice as you decide to write or not to write, to participate or not participate? What did you notice that was going on in that space? Because when we ask young people to tell us what they're going through, we should know that there's some resistance sometimes. When we ask them, how are you feeling? That's an easy question, right? Easy enough. But what if you didn't trust? What if you didn't believe that somebody really cared? What if you thought the only reason you should talk about problems is to somebody who you think can fix it? So just don't talk about it. this is the space. So as you see people writing in the chat, thank you. People are feeling some tears, some hope, and peace. Just the underlying theme was just feeling hopeless. Really understanding that it wasn't an easy question. They are harder questions sometimes, based on how many times we've been asked them or we've thought about it. Just knowing that sometimes we know intellectually that people are going through real stuff, but oftentimes the way our social media world works, it's like all we get to see are the highlights. All most people show or talk about is the highlights. So how do we really know that we are really going through real stuff until people talk about it? I think that one of the things I recognize in this work that we constantly try and do with educators, with teachers, with people who work in the mental health world is to know that as a person who is not a therapist, not licensed, I just ask questions and just listen. I was taught by one of my mentors, how about you listen and talk in the ratio of your ears and mouth? How about you listen twice as much as you talk? And most of you already know that in the work that you do. I'm a new person in this work, but how about we begin to ask questions and listen? And when a person they're not ready, we just, okay, well, what am I missing? Well, the way the math works really for me in this work is what I ask people is, here's what I'm seeing, because all I can see is what I see or what you kind of let me see. But what is happening behind what I'm not seeing? Because how much of behind what I'm not seeing can you tell me so that I can understand a little bit more? Because I know that I'm not seeing it all. Even for our own selves sometimes, even for our own family, even for our own friends, even for the people who love us and we love. Sometimes we don't even know what's going on behind. So I just want to thank you all for being a part of this experience. And I hope that if you're still reflecting on it, that you write it in chat. It will really help me as we're continuing to grow this work. But the one thing I want you to see and understand is that it just takes the kind, heartful ear of someone who's willing to hear you. I'm going to show you the gift I want to give you before I go, and I'm going to leave the Q&A here. So we'll go to the gift. It's a virtual gift. I wish it was I could hand you a gift. That young man who went away for a couple of weeks after bringing me the letter, he came back to school. He had a golden pass from me. At the end of the school year, he brought me this letter. And he's 11 years old. He's sixth grader. So just don't worry about the spelling. I'm going to read it to you. He said, "Thank you later to Mr. Branch." Dear Mr. Branch, I want to thank you for being there for me. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't probably be here right now. I hope to see you next year because I need somebody to share my feelings with or how I'm feeling. And you is one of those people I can talk to. And I want to thank that for you. Thank you. I want to tell you that the first letter he wrote me is probably the most important letter I've ever received in my life. And this is probably the second. You know, I've taught for a lot of years. I've done this work for a lot of years. I rarely have people write me a thank you letter. Not that I need it, but just knowing that this young man was like, thank you for being there for me. Like, have you ever felt like you didn't have anybody you could go to? I'm not really sure why my name was in the letter in the first place. Whatever the trust that had been built in this role of authority as a vice principal, but just knowing that that young man felt comfortable to come to me and say, here's what's going to happen. And so I just want to appreciate you for all the work you do for your communities, for teachers, for educators, for families, for kids, for whatever, all the places that you have your hands in. And on behalf of that young man, I give you this thank you letter too. I give it to you. I tell you, thank that for you. Thank that for you for choosing this profession. Thank that for you for probably doing other things you could have been doing, but you've chosen to come do this work. Thank you. And if no one ever writes you a thank you letter, just remember this thank you letter that somebody is thanking you. They may not have the the know-how or the willingness or ability to write you a letter to tell you thank you, but just know that even if they don't let you know, that your work matters. The next thing I want to show you is this quote. It says, the longest distance that most people travel is the 18 inches between their head and their heart. And most people get stuck in their heads. Today was not about trying to fill your head with more stuff. You are professionals. You know what you're doing. That's not my job. My job is to ask you to connect back to the heart of why you do this work. Because if we can get there, we can start there, especially what's going on in our world. So much things are trying to pull us apart from each other. How about we just get back to our hearts and realize that we just want to be heard and seen and cared for? That's what I believe. The last gift I have for you is a heart. This was on a wall in Dracula's castle of all places. So he's good. He's based on a real person. So this is a heart on his wall. And I offer you this. Every time you see a heart anywhere in the world, just ask yourself, have I been connected to my heart? Or am I stuck in my head right now? It's just an invitation to come back to the heart. Okay, what does my heart need right now? So the first thing that let people know you were coming to the planet, that heartbeat. And so maybe we just come back and check in with that for a while. Thank you. There's now time for Q&A. I really appreciate you all for being here. You can be a part of this movement. If you go to the last slide, we're creating, I guess there's a Q&A right now. So I'll put a link in the chat for some information that you can reach out to us with. And I hope that this work can serve your work. I hope that this tool, we created a game to kind of do some of these question and answers in a game format. It's called The Adventure. So we'll share this information with you in the chat. Yeah, I'll take questions now. Thank you all for being here. I so appreciate all of you. And we have some time left and I'll be here.
So Ashanti, we don't have any questions in the Q&A because
Okay.
people were so inspired by your presentation that I don't think they had questions, but maybe you can spend some time maybe talking about how they can use this tool.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
how they can access that same website and use this tool, and maybe talk about the cards that they can use, because I know I've seen them, but I know that not everybody else has. So you might want to spend some time talking about that. Since we don't have any questions, I think that would be valuable.
Okay, great. Well, make sure you get your evaluation. I don't want to change the screen. So the way this tool works is you can, I'm gonna put a link in the chat. As educators, practitioners, facilitators, you can actually use this tool that you just participated in today. I'm gonna put the link here in the chat. That link, the link that I'm gonna put right here, will allow you to sign up for like your own little, account, I guess you call it. And what happens in that account is you will be able to, let's say you're doing a workshop with a group of teachers, students, parents, your colleagues, whatever. Even though they're all anonymous, what you will be able to do is, PJ, can I take this off the screen real quick for the evaluation?
Sure. Yeah, if you need to share, go ahead, because the link to the evaluation is in the chat box. So
okay, great. So I just want to show them what it will look like. So this is the tool. This is my back office, and you can sign up and see your name will be showing up right there in the corner. And what will happen is you can create codes. So you can create a code for a certain group or workshop, or you can just leave them open in the gallery. So these are workshops that I did this week from Naugatuck Public Schools. You'll see those in there. What you can also do is, if I go to the educator view, you can, well, let's say that I was to go to the view of mass that I created. I can go to a code. So let's say I go to SHHS, let's say I go to Cal State University, Monterey Bay. So I take this here, and these are all the students that made mass under that code that I use. So that's a college here in the United States. I mean, in California. And it will show me a word cloud of all the masks that were made in that group. So at least I know, okay, I was at this workshop, I made these masks, and I can go and I can see, well, what was the biggest words? These are college students, right? So we see on the front, the biggest words: happy, confident. And then what are the college students also talking about? Stressed, emotional, scared, tired. And so in this work, in this group of masks, I can actually go and look at, well, what are all the people who said stressed? Like, I don't know who they are, but I can at least look it up. So this is what we created to make a tool for educators to be able to see well, what are people going through? What's happening? And so these are all the people that in this set that said stress. Now they may have used stress, just without the ED, but this is what I picked up. So what they're showing on the outside: happy, kind, caring. They put their words are in white, so you can't see them. Happy, perfect, excited, blessed, thankful, goal oriented. These are the words on the front of people who are stressed, because we've been taught to hold back and don't let people see stress. We don't talk about it. And what we created with this tool is a way for people who want to support the communities they work with to recognize there's so much more going on than what we can see. And that's what we've been creating. So this tool, the link I just put in the chat there, you can sign up, and then you can use this for yourself, or you can use it for one person, but whatever, or you can just go in and make a mask without doing any of this either. You don't need to do any of this. This is just a tool that we create. This is the second version that we created to make it available for educators to use. So, if I didn't want to see stress, I just want to see what all the young men are dealing with, all the college age males are dealing with. Well, here's what all the college age males are dealing with. I can go and see that. It's really just a way, we're a small nonprofit, so we don't have Google money to go make a fancy thing, but this is what we've been able to create based on how we have seen it working. And so that's one resource. And the last resource is that I will share with you is the game. I'll put a link to the video for the game in there. We create a game to kind of gamify this work. So I'll put a video in the chat so you can have that to look at on your own time. But the way the game works is it's called Taking Off the Mask, the Adventure. And what it does is it asks questions using if you're working with younger kids or even high school, even adults. It's a game we made actually for adults to play with each other, but then we started playing it with their students, and we were like, oh man. And what it does is it really begins to ask questions about what people are going through behind the mask. Is really deeply connected. So the goal is to save some people from a long lost destination. And what ends up happening is there's these questions in here, and you get points for the question. So it's kind of gamifying connection. Here's I don't know. This is the first question that popped out. You see, this is what it says. Name a relationship that needs to end. Oh, goodness. Now, you may not start with this with seventh graders, but necessarily the idea of the questions are really building connection. This is a sunrise, sunset question, meaning something that needs to start or something that needs to end. And some of them will get harder, but for the educators, we created an educator pack. And people can sign up to get one of these decks. But this is the work that we've been doing. Our Indiegogo campaign was fully funded. So we have cards that are starting to go out right now. They just arrived. And so we've been, as an organization, trying to figure out how do we make sure that people don't have to bring us in if they don't have the resources to bring me into their place. How about we just give them the tools so that they can do it and teach them how to do it well. We don't want people just to be telling kids, answer these hard questions. And then, the reason we created the campaign was because a teacher from somewhere in the world said, your activity doesn't work. I'm like, what activity? Huh? I'm not teaching people to do no activity. And then the educator was like, well, I did the activity that you did in the documentary, and it made my classroom unsafe. And I'm like, I hope you didn't ask your kids in front of each other to talk about their masks without preparing them. What you saw in the documentary was a 3-minute clip. I've been working with those young men for 5 months, and we have been in that room for an hour and a half. It wasn't a 3-minute tell me your stuff. It was let's take it slow. Let's understand that I'm not here to make you tell me anything. I'm just here to share with you I'm human. You're human. How about we have some human connection? So anyway, I don't know where people have to go if they have to leave right away, but I'll stay here for a few more minutes if questions do come in. But thank you for being here today. Thank you for being a part of this adventure with us today. And thank you for letting me share the work that we have been called to do. And so hopefully we'll be able to work or partner in the future. I really appreciate you all. I'll give you a digital swag bag that may serve. There's the videos that I showed today are in this swag bag. So you can, you can use that. It has some other videos and some other activities in there as well. So it's just a resource of things together. And please reach out if our work can serve you. And thank you for bringing me in. Thank you, PJ, and your team. Thank you, everybody. And I'll stay here for a few more minutes if anybody needs that. But I really appreciate all of you.
Thank you, Ashanti. The feedback in the chat room was fabulous. We definitely want to hear from everybody, so please fill out the evaluation. That is part of our funding, so at the end of today's training, please make sure you do that. We'd also like your feedback in guiding our educational training and technical assistant efforts. So please complete our needs assessment. That is also in the chat box as well, and the QR code is there. Here's again, that was probably a really heart-wrenching presentation, and I saw a lot of emotion coming up in the chat box. So here are some resources that will certainly help you if you need some assistance or just need some support. We understand that you might be joining us for our next session, which is social and emotional learning, champions who are paving the way. That is from 2:45 to 3:45, and the direct link to the session will also be shared in the chat box. And so we'd like to thank you for Ashanti for a wonderful presentation. And we look forward to you all joining us at our next session. And again, please connect with us. We're on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. And just to reinforce, the slides and the presentation will be available on the website. And Madeline, so will the link for the cards. We'll also put that on our website as well. So all of that will be on the website. You can access that and the resources. So Ashanti, thank you so much.
Thank you.
We loved having you. It was wonderful. And we hope to do more work with you in the future.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Had a great time, everybody. I wish I could see your faces, but I just know that I was just taking in the energy as much as I could. And thank you for being here. Thanks for giving your best.
Thank you.